Hello everyone and welcome to another RPG list on the Bad Company Sarge channel. This time I'm focusing on Fallout and looking at 10 of the coolest unique weapons from throughout the franchise. Before I jump into the list, I want to clarify that this is only going to be covering weapons which can actually be considered uniques in their games. This means no Big Boy from Fallout 4 or Ranger Sequoia from Fallout New Vegas. Big Boy is essentially just a guaranteed legendary drop, and the Ranger Sequoia isn't actually one of a kind, even though a lot of players seem to think it is. This also means we're starting off the list with an honourable mention. I wanted to include a weapon from Fallout 2 in this list, but I'm not sure if any of the weapons in the game are actually unique, so instead just enjoy this footage of the Bozar dealing lethal damage to Cato Genesis.
Marcus? No! I am dead.
And with that one covered, it's now on to the first actual entry of the list. Coming in at number 10 slot is the Perforator from the Pit DLC of Fallout 3. This is the unique variant of the Infiltrator rifle, and this often ends up being my go-to gun when I play Fallout 3. Not only does it look incredibly sleek, but with a scope and a suppressor, this is an incredibly versatile firearm. Accurate at basically any distance, there's not really a situation I can think of where I wouldn't want this gun to hand. While technically the DPS of the weapon isn't quite as high as your standard assault rifle, the improved accuracy will normally make it so that the true DPS is better. Sure, technically an assault rifle does 4 more points of damage a second than the Perforator, but that's only if you hit every single shot. I'd much rather have a weapon which can reliably hit with every bullet, ensuring I'm not wasting any ammo, and making the true DPS greater. Add on to that a solid crit chance and healthy critical damage, and there's really nothing even slightly bad to take away from this weapon. Honestly, the closest thing to a negative point is acquiring it, as it does need you to gather 90 steel ingots from the mill, which can take quite a while and gets a little boring if your sense of direction is anywhere near as bad as mine. At 9th place, I've gone with the Spurtle Wood 9700, the unique Gatling laser from Fallout New Vegas. I'll be honest here, the base variant of the weapon is doing a lot of the heavy lifting here. Gatling lasers are just a flat out cool weapon. Who doesn't want to shoot a barrage of lasers at your enemies, disintegrating them with overwhelming firepower? The 9700 takes the base model and makes it much more deadly. Much like the previous entry in this list, this is another weapon which loses some fire rate but gains a huge amount of damage in return, and gets a little bit more accurate. I also absolutely love the green glow of this gun. While the normal red shots of a standard Gatling laser would be more fitting for the channel, the green beams give much more of a sci-fi vibe, making me feel like I'm some kind of heavy space trooper, even if I'm stuck in the Mojave Desert. In order to get your hands on this weapon, all you need to do is buy it from Gloria Van Graff at the Silver Rush. Unless you've already killed her, in which case the good old Vendertron will sell it instead. These first 2 entries on the list are pretty cool, but they hit that point by just kind of being better variants of their base model. Given that, and the kind of basic way they're acquired, which doesn't give much of a story to them, they didn't really have much of a chance to get higher on the list. And then there's the number 8 slot, which is a fucking cannon. This is the Broadsider from Fallout 4, and it's an utterly ludicrous thing to be running around with as a weapon, but this is the kind of madness which helps the Fallout franchise to stand out. The Broadsider is quite literally a portable naval cannon, which fires explosive cannonballs at whoever you feel like shooting. There are few weapons in the game with the same level of base damage, but if I'm being completely honest, this isn't the most practical of weapons. Not only is it not sensible to be using an early 19th century cannon in the wasteland of the future, the ammo for this weapon is pretty rare to find, and given how slow it is, you really need to make sure you're able to hit your target straight away, as you'll be torn to shreds while loading another shot. But this isn't a list of the 10 of the most practical weapons to use in Fallout, it's 10 of the coolest, and need I say it again, this is a fucking cannon. That's just flat out cool on its own, but I also love how the character obtains it. Head to the eastern edges of Boston City area and you'll find the USS Constitution, a rocket-powered old-world naval ship which has been trapped in a building. By siding with a robotic crew and assisting them with ungrounding the vessel, you will get the Broadsider, along with other rewards. For me, the way you obtain a weapon 100% impacts just how cool the weapon itself is. Random drops are kind of whatever and boring, but being able to say that you got your hands on this cannon by helping out a crew of robots aboard an ancient ship, that's just bloody cool. If I was in charge of the Fallout franchise, then I'd be trying to make it so that every unique weapon would have a great acquisition story tied to it. While we're on unusual weapons, let's move on to the number 7 entry, Euclid Seafinder. This Fallout New Vegas weapon looks like a toy laser gun of some kind, and many new players may assume that to be the case, seeing as it does absolutely nothing by default, but that's what's so cool about it. No, don't worry, Sarge hasn't gone full pacifist halfway through the list. I'm just excited about how you get this weapon working. Because it can do something, but in order to power it up you'll need to complete the quest at That Lucky Old Sun and direct the power to Archimedes 2. If you do that, then the weapon now does this. Yeah, definitely not a toy gun at all. What this weapon actually is a rangefinder for an orbital laser weapon that can destroy basically any enemy you come across. It would be a little ridiculously overpowered if you could use it constantly, but fortunately the devs were smart enough to put a couple of limiters on it. First is that it can only be fired once every 24 hours, as the orbital laser needs time to recharge. There is a waiting feature, so this isn't a major drawback, but does stop you from just spamming it during combat. You also can only use the weapon outdoors, which not only helps to limit it a little, but also totally makes sense. I really appreciate that there was a lot of thought and care put into the design of this thing, and it shows a real level of attention that I wish all uniques could be given. On to the number 6 entry, and we've got a weapon that might literally be the coolest. That's right, it's the Cryolator from Fallout 4. This is the very first unique weapon that Fallout 4 players will encounter, and it's well worth returning to the vault in order to get this freezing flamer-like thing. Okay, it's literally such a unique weapon that I don't know how to describe it, and I absolutely love that fact. The Cryolator is a short-range DPS machine, which has the ability to literally freeze enemies solid, preventing them from moving or attacking. Or you can switch to the Crystallizing Barrel, and turn it into the most lethal snowball launcher that the Wasteland has seen. While super cool, it's another weapon which isn't super practical, due to the fact that it eats for ammo at an alarming rate, and the ammo itself is pretty darn rare, which makes sense considering no other weapon in the game uses cryocells. It's still a weapon well worth adding to your inventory though, especially if you're investing into lockpick, or if you're happy to let Kate or Dogmeat get it for you. Like the past couple of weapons, this one also comes with a story that I'm a big fan of. The Cryolator was created by the Overseer of Vault 111 while they waited for the all-clear signal to occur. Seeing as the vault was designed to put people into cryosleep, the Overseer decided to try and make a portable version of the same technology, and that is just a neat little bit of backstory of how it came to be. We're at the halfway point of the list now, and it's back to New Vegas for the Paladin Toaster. First off, brilliant naming. Not only is it kinda funny, but it also explains where it is most useful, as this unique variant of the Zap Glove dishes out bonus damage to both robots and those in power armor, making it the ideal weapon to punch Brotherhood Paladins with. I wanted to include an unarmed weapon on this list, and there were a lot of different ones to go with inside of New Vegas. I do enjoy the idea of punching heavily armoured enemies to death, and while the two-step goodbye would be the more powerful one to go with, what really pushed this weapon ahead for me was the visual element. I'm really into a dark colour scheme, and this is a gauntlet which I would feel so cool wearing. The standard Zap Glove is a bit of a glaring blue and yellow colour combo, but the black and grey of the unique variant fits me so much better. Plus getting to punch people and say, "You're toast!" and my snappy one-liner just doesn't get old. To acquire this punchy power you'll need to head to Blackrock Cave and find it on the body of a dead prospector, although you will have to get past some dangerous nightkin to claim your reward. Alright now, on to the serious entries. Coming in at number 4 is the Microwave Emitter from the Point Lookout DLC of Fallout 3. This weapon looks the same as the non-lethal Mesmetron, but you really don't want to mix the two up, as the Microwave Emitter is one of the most bloody weapons in the game. Not only does this thing have a pretty high base damage, but it also ignores damage resistance, and will literally blast enemies apart, even if you don't have the Bloody Mess perk. There's just something so evil about taking basically the only non-lethal weapon in Fallout 3, and then making a version of it which is brutally lethal, but still looks the same. It feels like a cruel joke to play on the actual players, but given what people who use the Mesmetron are likely up to, I think it's a joke well worth playing. Somewhat annoyingly, the weapon is a bit bulky when you're playing in first person, which does reduce your visibility a fair amount and make it difficult to use outside of VATS, but given the cinematic nature of many of its attacks, I don't mind that at all. In order to get your hands on this destructive device, you'll need to reach the very end of Point Lookout's main quest, which is well worth playing through in my opinion, as it may well be one of my favourite DLC quest lines. It's top 3 time, and with the bronze medal, it's the Alien Blaster from the OG Fallout game. Considering the legacy this thing has, there's no way I could omit it from the list. In the classic game, this small gun is found during a random alien ship encounter, which I was lucky enough to find back when I did my playthrough of Fallout. Foolishly, I forgot to use the blaster for the rest of that playthrough, but even finding it was a pretty cool experience in and of itself. If you are smart enough to actually use this weapon though, then what you'll find is potentially the highest single shot damage weapon in the entire game, as a crit to the right place can deal hundreds of points of damage. It does have a crazy short range of only 10 hexes, but it also has a pretty strong boost to accuracy, so for close range combat this is one of the best things you can use. In fact, it's worth pointing out that I'm playing a melee character in this footage, and I still get reasonable decent accuracy with some of the shots. It's rare that you'll land a long distance shot in the classics anyway, no matter your build, so the limited range really isn't half as bad as it first seems. Get in close with this lethal alien invention and watch your enemies disintegrate before your very eyes. Onto the silver medal, and we're looking at the Cold Shoulder from Fallout 76. 76 really doesn't have much in the way of true unique weapons, relying more on the overinflated legendary system, but given the quality of uniques they can come up with, I hope that changes in the future. This thing is amazing. This is a double-barrel shotgun which has a unique sort of cryo effect, not only slowing enemies that it hits, but also dealing bonus cryo damage. On top of that, it also has the paranormal modifier, giving bonus damage against cryptids, which is pretty cool, and the one regular legendary effect on it is Quad, which turns the ammo capacity from 2 to 8, a ridiculously helpful modifier for this weapon, which also doesn't normally show up for double barrels. But the effects aren't even the coolest thing about this gun, it's the visuals. Just look at it, you can literally see the ice on the weapon. It's an amazing aesthetic, and honestly gives me a bit of a regret that Bethesda haven't put more work towards making unique weapons in recent years. They clearly have talented developers who are more than up to the job, they just need to be given the chance to make weapons like this one. There's only one negative thing I can say about this weapon, and it's the acquisition method. To earn the plan to make it, you need to have progressed through the Rep Daring and the Cryptid Hunt scoreboard, which was Season 12 of Fallout 76. Which was in the past. Yeah, you can't get this yourself anymore. Kind of a disadvantage of online games, plus I tested and you can't drop it for other players, so the only way to have this weapon is to have already unlocked it. It's still a great weapon, but sadly one that not many people will get to use. And now it's time for the number 1 slot. I kept rearranging this list, adding weapons and taking different ones away, having a real hard time deciding what should go in the number 1 slot. But in the end, I decided I needed to go for a weapon which has special significance to me. One that helped me complete one of the hardest challenge runs that I've ever faced. This is the Deliverer from Fallout 4. Back in 2018, I undertook the One Gun Run, a permadeath playthrough of Fallout 4 survival mode, where I had to use the first gun I picked up as my one and only weapon. And that gun was the Deliverer. This unique 10mm pistol carried me through the hardest difficulty of any Fallout game, and for that, it's earned the number 1 place in my eyes. But on top of it holding a special place in my heart, it's also just flat out a really cool weapon. Bethesda could have just taken a 10mm pistol and thrown a random legendary effect on it, but instead they designed a whole new version of a 10mm, one that looks fitting for a secret agent or a spy. This is the quintessential stealth weapon for sneaky characters in Fallout 4. Not only is it stealthy, but it also has great damage, plentiful ammo, and ludicrous VATS efficiency, thanks to the legendary effect, reducing VATS cost and increasing hit chance. The pistol also serves as a sign of your allegiance to the Railroad. In order to get the gun, you need to help them out, and after getting this gun, you end up being seen as a true part of the organisation, which makes it really feel more meaningful than a lot of weapons in Fallout 4 do. Sure, you can then betray the Railroad if you feel like it, but that's not the point. The gun is great, and I'll just leave things there. So those were 10 of the coolest unique weapons in the Fallout franchise. Let me know in the comments what your top 10 would be, leave a like if you enjoyed this, and subscribe for more Fallout content, lists, and other weird things too. Feel free to join the Discord to chat with others in the community, follow me on Twitter as an additional way to get notified of videos, and check out my Patreon page if you're a fan of video game wallpapers. As always, thanks for watching. Sarge out.